Welcome dear students. This video lesson is for the benefit of the BCom final year students of this university. This lesson is from the course Income Tax 1. This we will be studying under the 5th semester of the BCom program. Income tax is a vast subject and everybody will at any point of time come into contact with the concept of income tax. Today, we are going to talk about residential status of an individual and the incidence of tax. First, before understanding what is residential status, we will have to know why is residential status important. Because residential status will determine who will pay the tax and on what income the tax has to be paid. We know that the moment you earn any income and this income is more than the exempted limit, you have to pay tax on that income. But it is your residential status which determines whether you will pay the tax on that income or you will not pay tax on that income. Now, this depends upon your residential status, which is the status of an individual during the relevant previous year. Relevant previous year is the year which comes just before the assessment year, and assessment year is the year in which you pay your tax. So, during the previous year, which is before the assessment year, what is your residential status? That will determine whether you will pay the tax or you will not pay the tax. In order to understand the residential status in detail, you have to know that incomes are of two types, either it is an Indian income or a foreign income. So, there are two types of incomes, Indian income and foreign income. What is an Indian income? An income that is earned in India, that is accrued in India and that arises in India is known as Indian income. What is the meaning of earned in India? That is the source of an income, the efforts that you put in on that source of the income are put in India, that is the income is earned in India. Then income will accrue in India, that is whatever income you are going to levy tax on should have accrued within the geographical limits of India, and that income should arise from India. We will take the example of a house property. Suppose you have a house property. The house property is situated in India. Assume the house property is situated in Hyderabad. The income source is in India. Because Hyderabad is within India, it arises from India and it is paid in India, it accrues within India. It becomes an Indian income. Assume that you have got the same income from a house property, but it is situated in Bangladesh and you are receiving the income outside India. Here the source of income is not in India, it is not received in India, therefore, you do not call it as an Indian income, it becomes a foreign income. So, where there is any income that is earned in India, has its source in India and the income is received in India, it becomes an Indian income. Where any aspect of earning, accruing or arising is outside India, it becomes a foreign income. So, now you know the classification of income, whether it is Indian or foreign. This becomes the base on which you are going to pay your tax. But however, if your residential status is determined, only then you will pay tax on any kind of income. Now, we will talk about residential status. There are three types of residents. Either the person is an ordinarily resident, not ordinarily resident or non-resident. The term ordinary resident is denoted to understand that a person who satisfies the conditions laid down under section 6 of the Income Tax Act which determine the status of an individual. If he satisfies those conditions, he will be called an ordinary resident. What are the conditions? Section 6 states two sets of conditions. Either it is a basic condition or an additional condition. Basic condition says where a person stays in India for a period of 182 days or more during the relevant previous year, he has satisfied the first basic condition. Remember students, here we are talking about the stay of the person in India. The person has to be physically present within the geographical limits of the country. The day of departure from the country, the day of arrival into the country is considered as being present in the country. So, you have to calculate the period of 182 days or more. So, take from the start of the previous year. The previous year will always begin from 1st of April. So, from 1st of April till 31st of March, if the person stays in India for a period of 182 days or more, he has satisfied the first basic condition. Assume a person was not in India for 182 days. He was less than 182 days present in the country. Then you will have to test the second basic condition. Now, the second basic condition is split into two. First part says he should stay in India for 60 days or more during the previous year and 365 days or more during the 4 years preceding the previous year. He has not satisfied the first basic condition. Then see whether he is satisfying the second basic condition, which is 60 days during the previous year. In addition to this 60 days, he has to be there for a period of 365 days or more in the 4 years before the previous year. Now, the period of 182 days or 60 days need not be at a stretch. He may be coming and going to a foreign country. He may come, stay for a few days and then leave the geographical limits of India. So, the period of stay within India should be counted. It need not be one whole 182 days or one whole 60 days. It can be in bits and parts, but the total of the days should be either more than 182 or more than 60. Where an individual satisfies both the basic conditions, that is, he has stayed in India for 182 days, he has satisfied the basic condition 1. He was not there for 182 days, but he was there for more than 60 and also 365, he has satisfied the second basic condition. Such a person is called resident individual. He is called as resident individual. Where a person does not satisfy any of the basic conditions, either 1 or 2, he is a non-resident. A resident individual is further classified as ordinary resident or not ordinary resident. Remember, here you have determined the status as resident or non-resident. If he has satisfied the basic condition either 1 or 2, he is a resident, otherwise he is a non-resident. For a non-resident individual, you do not have any further conditions. For a resident individual, you have further conditions known as additional conditions. Now, we will look at these additional conditions. There are again two additional conditions. Number 1, a person has to be a resident for 2 years out of the 10 years preceding the relevant previous year. That is, before the previous year, for a period of 10 years, if he was declared a resident in at least 2 years, he has satisfied the first additional condition. The second additional condition says that he has to be present physically in India for a period of 730 days or more during the 7 years preceding the previous year. If a resident individual satisfies additional condition 1 and 2, he is called resident and ordinary resident. Where a resident individual does not satisfy any additional condition or satisfies only one or only two of the additional conditions, that is, he has satisfied only one of the additional condition or none of the additional conditions, he is called not ordinary resident. A person who has satisfied either one of the two basic conditions plus both additional conditions will be called ordinarily resident. Where he has satisfied one basic condition and only one or none of the additional conditions, he is not ordinarily resident. Remember, we were talking about Indian incomes and foreign incomes. Where the status of an individual is ordinary resident, he has to pay tax on both Indian income and foreign income. Where a person is treated as non-resident, he will pay tax on Indian income only. In the case of not ordinary resident, he will pay tax generally on Indian income only. However, if he has got a business that is situated outside India, but controlled from India, he will pay tax even on that business income. Otherwise, he is treated as a non-resident only for taxation purposes. So, a resident individual will pay tax both on Indian and foreign income. Non-resident will pay tax only on Indian income. The other category of an individual, which is not ordinary resident, he will pay tax on generally Indian income, except in one condition, where he has got a business situated outside India, but controlled from India, he will pay tax on that income also. This is about residential status and incidence of tax. There are two situations here. Either you can avoid the payment of tax, or an illegal way is evading the payment of tax. If you avoid the payment of tax by taking advantage of the loopholes in the system, then it is perfectly legal. You will not be penalized for that. But if you do not pay tax where it is due, it is called tax evasion, and if you evade tax, then you will have to pay the penalty which is leviable for tax evasion. This is about residential status. When I am talking about incidence of tax, I mean the levy of tax. The person who has to pay tax in respect of the income that he earns, that is called incidence of tax. So, we have talked about residential status of an individual and also the incidence of tax. Remember, under the Income Tax Act, a person is classified as individual, HUF, company, firm, association of persons, body of individuals, artificial juridical person. The status of an individual is what we have discussed now. Coming to the status of a Hindu undivided family. As you know, a Hindu undivided family is controlled by the head of the family, who is known as the Karta. For the status of an individual, we have seen the conditions laid down. For the status of HUF also, the same conditions will apply. However, it is the Karta whose movements are seen. If the Karta satisfies both additional conditions, the HUF is treated as resident and ordinary resident. And if the Karta satisfies only one or none of the additional conditions, HUF is treated as not ordinary resident. The incidence of tax is the same. Coming to a partnership firm or a company, in the case of a partnership firm, you know that the firm is different, the partners are different. The collective name given to all the partners put together is the firm's name. So, you do not take into consideration the movement of the partners within India or outside India. For that, there is only one condition, which is the place of business. If the place of business is in India, it is called an Indian partnership firm. It has to pay tax. If the place of business is outside India, then it is not an Indian partnership firm, it need not pay tax. For a company, company can only be a resident or a foreign company. It can either be an Indian company or a foreign company. An Indian company is that company that is registered under the Companies Act 2013, while a foreign company is that company that is not registered under this act. So, where a foreign company conducts its business from the shores of India, but is not registered in India, then it need not pay tax. However, Indian company will have to pay tax because it is treated as a resident. For an artificial juridical person or body of individuals, the place of incorporation, if it is in India, it becomes resident. If it is outside India, it becomes non-resident. So, these are the rules regarding residential status of an individual, HUF, firm, company and other types of persons. This is very important from the point of view of levying the tax liability, which is called the incidence of tax. This is about the residential status and the incidence of tax. Now, you might be wondering, we are talking about the levy of tax, the payment of tax. What is the rate of tax? At what rate should the tax be paid? Remember, the Indian Income Tax Act is progressive in nature, in the sense the lesser your income, the lesser will be your tax liability, the more is your income, the more will be your tax liability. We follow a slab system of taxation, where the total income of a person is divided into different blocks. The first block, we call it as the first slab, which is rupees 2,50,000, where an individual has got income less than 2,50,000, it is called exempted income. That is, the rate of tax for the first 2,50,000 is nil. He need not pay any tax. But where his income exceeds 2,50,000, but does not exceed 5 lakh, that is between 2,50,000 to 5 lakh, the rate of tax is 20%. For income which is beyond 5 lakhs, then the rate of tax will increase. So, here you see the rate of tax is increasing at a progressive rate, and incomes are of different types. Either it is a casual income, or it is a long term capital gain, or it is income on which special rates of tax are applicable, like the securities transaction tax. So, first understand that an individual, if he gets income other than the regular income being his income from salary, income from house property, income from business and income from other source. This is called as his regular income, because it comes from a regular source. But if he has got capital gains are taxed at a different rate. It is called as the slab rate. It is a flat rate. A flat rate of 20% is leviable for long term capital gains. For casual incomes are those incomes which do not arise by way of your regular activity. They will arise by an element of chance. They are called as casual incomes. Examples are lotteries, crossword puzzles, horse races, TV game shows, etc. When a person earns income by an element of chance, it is called as casual income, and casual income is taxed at a flat rate of 30%. So, your regular slab income is there, the special rates being 20% for long term capital gain and 30% for casual income. Apart from this, whatever tax you get, on that tax education cess is leviable. Education cess is a tax on tax. After you calculate the tax liability, on that amount 4% is to be calculated as education cess. These are the rates of tax. So, we have seen the residential status of an individual, and also we have discussed the tax rates applicable for the current year. In order to recap what we have just now discussed, we will try to analyze the residential status rules in the form of a chart. Now, in this chart you see the status of an individual is either ordinarily resident, not ordinarily resident and a non-resident. For an ordinarily resident, you see the basic conditions. He has satisfied both or any one. If you look at the additional conditions, he has satisfied both additional conditions. So, he is called as ordinary resident. Not ordinary resident is an individual who has satisfied basic condition either one or two or both, does not make any difference. But when it comes to additional conditions, you see he has satisfied only one additional condition or he has not satisfied any of the additional conditions. So, he is not ordinary resident, while a non-resident has not satisfied any of the basic conditions. For a non-resident, you do not again have any additional conditions, because even if he satisfies any of the additional conditions, his status will not alter. There will not be any change in his status. It will remain to be a non-resident. An ordinary resident individual will pay tax both on Indian and foreign income, while a non-resident will pay tax only on Indian income. The not ordinary resident individual will generally pay tax on Indian income, but if he has got income from business controlled from India, situated outside India, he will pay tax even on such an income. So, this is about residential status of an individual and also the incidence of tax. Thank you.